Hi, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nathan Wang. I'm a high school senior at Harvard Westlake School, and in my summer from junior year to senior year, I participated in the Yale Young Global Scholars Information Session. So today I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about my experience, some application advice, because it is a fairly selective and pretty prestigious program that high schoolers can engage in. And yeah, share some ideas and some of the opportunities that Yale Young Global Scholars offers that not a lot of other places do, which is something that I think is really unique to this program and something that I'll get into later on in this presentation. So, Young Global Scholars, this is just an introduction panel, but just looking at this picture of all these people pointing at the map, we can just see first off like how diverse Yale Young Global Scholars is of a program, and how many people Yale brings together from all corners of the world into their central campus, and how many opportunities you have to engage with people whose perspectives you may not know or have or may align with. But this picture was actually taken during my session. I'll get a little bit into the sections later in this session, but essentially there are three sessions you can participate in. So some of the people in this picture I'm actually friends with, and it's really nice seeing them on this panel. So Yale Young Global Scholars is an academic summer enrichment program for high school students, sophomores, and juniors. There is a requirement, which I'll get into later, but it's a 2-week program, which sounds like a short amount of time, but Yale does a fantastic, phenomenal job of packing so many different things into its program that it really makes this 2-week program feel like a month. And that's something that I truly felt. You can see that Yale brings students from over 150 countries. And I think if I remember correctly, Yale brings students from all 50 states, which is really impressive for a summer program to do. And that's something that's so special about this program. So, summer offerings, Yale does 3 sessions, as I mentioned earlier, and they're all residential, which means you'll be living on Yale's beautiful campus and you have the same amount of opportunities as any other undergraduate student has on Yale's campus. You can participate in 4 academic tracks. So you can do innovations in science and technology, which is basically the STEM track for students interested in sort of more sciencey and mathy related subjects. There's also the literature, philosophy, and culture, which is sort of the more humanities and sort of like writing aspects that you'll encounter in a lot of your English and history classes in school. And then there's finally the solving global challenges. It's a cross-disciplinary, which means it brings together a lot of different fields into one, and that's the one I did. So SGC is what we call it, solving global challenges. That's the one I did. Um, but then the last one, which is you might see this a little more often, it's the one that like people talk about most often, but it's the politics, law, and economics one, PLE. This is something that you'll actually like a lot of undergraduate college students want to try out as a major in college. Um, so you can tell by just these offerings that YYGS is very college oriented and pre-college oriented. It prepares all the students that go there um, for college opportunities, and it gives students resources that you'll encounter in college as well. So it's sort of an early introduction to what you'll expect in college and what you can expect when you're a senior and writing these essays for college. But there's a really important note when you choose one of the 4 academic tracks, because when you're applying to YYGS, you choose your most interested track and then your most interested track. But when I was choosing, I chose solving global challenges because something that I'm really interested in is global affairs and sort of political science, but also like it's interdisciplinary in itself, which means it brings together all of these different areas, and may not be as in depth as like a politics education would be at YYGS, but it allows you to explore different areas, which is something I'm really interested in. So important area to consider when you're applying is that you shouldn't pick the track that you think will have a higher chance of acceptance. You shouldn't pick literature, philosophy, and culture because you think that fewer people will apply to it, you should pick the track that genuinely interests you and that you really want to go to yourself. So yeah. By the way, if you have any questions, I believe there's a Q&A in the chat that you can access, and type it in there and we'll get to it at the end. So what does the YYGS program curriculum look like? Earlier when I was talking about, so it's 2 weeks, which is about 12 days, excluding one weekend. But YYGS packs so many different things together that it feels like it's a month-long program. But these are just 6 of the small things YYGS packs together, which speaks to the program itself. So the first that we'll go over is lectures. Second is seminars. Third is symposium. Fourth is breakout sessions. Fifth is family time, which is really unique to YYGS and something I really appreciate in my time there. And then the 6th and final one is the capstone project. So in all of these different areas, YYGS connects students from so many different fields and so many different backgrounds that you really get this intellectual diversity and social diversity on your campus that you can't really access elsewhere, which is so unique to YYGS itself. So starting with lectures, so students in each of the 4 tracks, there are about 200 to 300 students in each track for one session. So during one session, one of the 3 sessions, there will be about 1,200 students on YYGS's campuses for all 4 tracks in total. But basically, the track you do is individualized to the track. So all the different lectures, you will experience 5 total lectures at YYGS, and all of them are tailored to the exact thing you're learning. So for me, solving global challenges, each one of the different tracks, each one of the different lectures we participated in was a different subject to better, guide us through this global challenges education at YYGS. So lectures are truly some of the most unique spaces you'll find at YYGS. And the lectures are very related to your actual material in other aspects of the YYGS experience. So like there are times in lectures where I would ask questions to the presenters, to the lecturers. And when I asked questions, they were related to like the capstone project I was participating in. And that would be information I would use to then better guide my capstone project, which I thought was really great because YYGS, it's not like all these individual parts. Like back to this slide, you see 6 individual parts. You think they're all separate, but really at your time there, all the students realize that they're really interconnected, and the students have opportunities to sort of build bridges between each of them, which all speaks to like the greater learning experience at YYGS, which is super great. So moving on, we have some, a little bit of pictures. I'll scatter pictures around in this presentation because I took a lot of pictures during this 2-week program. But lectures basically looked a little something like this. So on the left slide, you see like just a regular lecture hall. So all classrooms are in Yale building. So you're basically like a Yale student for 2 weeks, which is super duper cool. So this lecture was an introductory lecture on what solving global challenges means, and it was conducted by the program head of YYGS. And then to the right is a lecture on it's called the political CEO, and that was really interesting because the lectures aren't just like people YYGS can bring in and have availability. They're actually really, really experienced in their fields, and that's something that's really unique to YYGS again. So during my time there, I had these were 4 of the 5 lectures I had. And the subjects under them are the fields and the topics that they discussed during their lectures. So you can take a little bit of time reading this slide, but you can tell by all 4 of these pictures that they're incredibly professional and incredibly experienced in their fields. So Caitlin, I'll just go over a little bit. Caitlin is an assistant professor in emergency medicine, and the co-director of the Yale Emergency Scholars Fellowship. David Bach is an American financial author and founder of FinishRich.com. And Professor Vanable is a presidential visiting fellow at Yale School of Architecture, and they teach a course called Tall Tales, which is really cool because she basically gave us an abridged version of her course during a lecture. And then finally is James Campbell. He is an adjunct professor of Yale Law, and he worked on a Supreme Court case that actually fought for Puerto Rico rights in a court case that basically discussed civil liberties, and that's something he talked about during his lecture. So all four of these people who spoke in my track's lecture, Solving Global Challenges, they were really experienced in their fields, and they had a lot of great insight because they're professionals and they're experienced and they have so many stories to tell. But beyond that, you have opportunities after the lectures to talk to them and ask them very individualized questions. And I remember for James Campbell, it's not on the slideshow, but I had an opportunity to basically go after the lecture. YYGS organized like a fireside chat with James Campbell. And we all sat around a table, we brought our lunches in, and we just sort of had a nice conversation. Me and I think 10 other students had a nice conversation with him, sort of about being a lawyer and his experience at Yale, because he's an undergrad, he graduated as an undergraduate at Yale and at the law school. So it was a really great opportunity to like sort of immerse myself in the Yale experience from an alum's perspective. So the second of the six things I want to talk about, what is called seminars. So seminars are very enclosed spaces for students to develop under courses that fit their program track. So students will take 3 seminars throughout their 2 weeks, in addition to all the lectures and breakout discussions, which I'll get to later. But seminars are largely discussion based, with little to no lectures because you have all these two-hour lectures elsewhere. But to give a better idea of what a seminar is and what it looks like, I took 3 seminars, but you can see here that there are a bunch of sample seminars, and that a lot of them are basically question based. They're around this question. So like the ones I took for my track Solving Global Challenges was, do poor people have a right to healthcare? The second one I took was, are borders fake? And the third one was about, retail shopping and consumerism in America and in the international global stage. So these seminars are largely taught by undergraduate students, either at Yale or a separate college, but they're very, you know, they're very discussion based, as I said earlier, and they give an opportunity for you to engage with different perspectives with all the other students in the room, because you have students coming from areas like Dubai, from Southeast Asia, all these different places that students come from. And you can interact with their ideas and you can bounce off of them. And something really, you can see in the image itself, it's like really enclosed and tight-knit space where your ideas are just flowing freely and you can take notes throughout it all, which really enlarges your perspective and enlarges your experiences. So seminars were definitely a highlight. Um, I'll show you a sample schedule later, but seminars are scattered throughout the week and you take 3 of them. Um, and, it's sort of an encompassing education on a single subject. Moving on is the capstone project. So this is the third of the 6. The capstone project is sort of one of the like more unique aspects of YYGS that they managed to fit in the program. But the capstone was a highlight for me because, again, I got the opportunity to work with a much smaller group. It was 5 to 6 people, but they still had the same diversity of interests and ideas that really spoke to my understanding. So what the capstone project is that YYGS, within each subtract, you have to you work with a group of 5 to 6 people in that track, and you make a capstone project, basically consolidating all your resources and all your learned material throughout the program, into for me, it was into solving a global challenge. So for the solving global challenges track, excuse me, it was subdivided into different capstone themes. So the capstone theme that I did was public health on the global stage. This meant I had to, sort of work with this group of 5 to 6 people to address a global health dilemma that was going on in the world. And you're advised by undergraduate students, which means you have pretty professional mentorship. But it's not even mentorship because the undergraduate students go above and beyond to make sure that they work with you along every step of the capstone project process, because they tailor their feedback to your exact project and even to the exact individual that's working on the project. So it's really great that way because you get all these feedback and you also get the experience to work on a team and you have these opportunities to work with kids that students in higher education that know more than you and that you can learn from. Um, so there's also the diversity aspect, which I talked about. I had a student in mind from I just leave my Dubai. I had a capstone project member from Dubai, and that was really great because it's so far from the world that it feels so distant. But they came in YYGS, and I got to work with them for the 2 weeks, which was super unique experience. But at the end of the 2 weeks, after you finish developing your capstone project, you present it in a 10 to 15-minute presentation within sort of your track at the end of the program for some incentive. So what I mean by incentive, this might be different for each track, but for the Solving Global Challenges track, they made it really sort of fun and creative in a way because they said that the person with the best solution to a global challenge would get a significant sum of like fake money grant that they would then use to develop their project. So you're basically competing alongside like 5 to 10 other groups for grant scholarships. It's fake money, but grant scholarships that you have to develop the best idea to get the scholarship, which was really like it provided a good incentive to make the best project you could. Um, and the capstone projects are very practical and sort of like tailored to real life experiences that are going on. So the capstone project that I did, going back to global health, which is the subject I chose because health is something I'm also interested in. Um, we developed sort of a solution to addressing medical inequality in medical research. So in medical research, certain demographics and certain people are not represented to the same extent that others are. So these minorities are excluded from medical research, which, overall speaks to like the larger idea that healthcare is inequitable in the world, not only in America, but in the world, which is something we addressed with an app we designed because I had people in my group who are really interested in computer science. Um, so that was the capstone project we developed. So that's the capstone project. Moving on is something called, these are the symposiums. So symposiums come in two different forms. So the first is like a TED Talk or a speaker series, and the second is like a talent show. Both are ways for students to sort of show their interests and show what they're interested in to all the students in YYGS. So when you enter YYGS, you're paired in a residential college, basically. And this residential college, I was in Trumbull College, which is a real college at YYGS. And basically, this group of people you're with, you go to symposiums with, and it's a big crowd, around 200 to 300 kids, if I remember. But basically, in symposiums, you have two opportunities. So the first is you can do a speaker series. It's basically like a TED Talk, a 5 to 10 minute presentation. And these are not mandatory, but the second you can do is a talent show where you can show like your interest, like music, singing, a cappella, all of this stuff, choir. And so it's really fun that way, and it's a really good way to engage with different people. But the one I chose to do, I did a TED Talk, a speaker series, and it was really fun because it really aligned with like my interests. So I gave a TED Talk on fast fashion's impact on climate exchanges, basically. So in that way, I basically got up on stage, and for 6 minutes, I gave a presentation about why fast fashion is bad for the environment and for the world in general. So that was a really unique opportunity because I've never had a crowd that big before, and you actually have to audition for it. So it's not just like you can go up and talk about anything, but you go up, audition for it, and you're selected, and you go up and you give a presentation. So this is just one of the unique opportunities you have at YYGS, because Yale brings together a large crowd of different people, and you can share ideas in the speaker series. So this is just a picture of my the presentation slideshow I used for my speaker series. I drew it myself, which is really fun on my iPad. So they're supposed to be fun too and engaging for the students. The second one is talent shows. I don't have any pictures of what a talent show looks like, but I'm sure you can imagine the same. You're on a stage with a crowd of like 300 in an auditorium behind you, and you're playing music on your guitar, you're singing a song, you're juggling, you're doing all these amazing things that your peers alongside you can watch. So yeah, it's just symposiums are meant to be fun, basically like a fun opportunity to have fun at Yale, right? Yale's not, the YYGS is not all academia. It's a lot of fun too. And you have a lot of cool activities like this where you can, engage with student ideas and interests, which is really great for me because, I've dabbled in debate a little bit before. So I felt like I was really drawn to the speaker series, and sort of developed my public speaking. And it was really fun that way. Okay, so moving on, I know there's even more to YYGS. There's the thing called family time. So family time is, um, how do I explain it? You basically develop a family at YYGS. So the first day you're there, you're assigned to a group of 10 students and one YYGS employee who's an undergraduate student. And basically, over the course of 2 weeks, you meet with this family group every single day you're at YYGS. Um, and families become that basically you grow alongside them throughout the program, which is really great. So as you can see on the slideshow, you foster relationships with peers around the world, and you do fun social activities, and you have deep reflections on lectures. So this group of 10 students all come from the people in your track. So all 10 of mine were from the Solving Global Challenges track. And my mentor, sort of he called himself, like our dad, but that's just because of the designated name of family. But we met almost every night in a YYGS classroom, and my group did a lot of team bonding, and we played this game called Buffalo, where we would share stories about our days. And that was a way we really bonded with these people because YYGS offers so many of these, like separate cohorts for students to engage with other students and just have fun. These family groups were a lot of fun, and we did a lot of exploring around New Haven together, and around Yale's campus itself. So that was really great. But a family time basically looks like it's not outdoors, don't worry. It's in a classroom, but it looks like a small, tight-knit group just like this. With this looks like a mentor, but basically it's just you do activities like this in your group and you engage in reflections on lectures, which is the next thing I'm talking about. It's called breakout sessions. So in breakout sessions, you dig deeper into lecture material by sharing knowledge, thinking critically, and posing questions with a small group of peers. So this small group of peers is your family group. And family groups are not just fun activities like Buffalo, which is what my group did, but it's also where you can share information. You can lead discussions within your group about lecture material. So the lectures we had were basically ranged all the way across so many different solving global challenges sectors. But in these breakout sessions, we had opportunities to discuss the lectures and basically dig a little deeper because the lectures go in depth themselves, but they lack sort of the discussion feel you get in a small classroom, like in the family breakout sessions. So during the family sessions, we had opportunities to basically pose questions to our peers in the group and basically answer them, bounce off ideas. And it was really great because we went even further than the lecture material provided. And YYGS really ensures that like it's an encompassing education at YYGS. It's not just lectures and learning hard material and slideshows, but it's also discussing because that's a really important part of what an education is. It means you can learn from different perspectives and you can get an education at YYGS that is from other people, not just the people who are standing in front of an auditorium, if that makes any sense. Um, it's sort of what you might imagine, like in your English classes or history classes. You do your textbook reading, you do your reading homework, and then you go to class and then you discuss your book or you discuss a historical event and like the cause and effects of it. That's basically what you do in breakout sessions. Um, and that was really fun for me to engage with. Okay, moving on. This is just some life at Yale, sort of the fun part of it. But dorms, you live in a dorm with at least one other person, and so you have a lot of opportunities to connect with others in your residential colleges. I mentioned earlier, you do a lot of activities with your residential college, and we call it Res Call. I was at Trumbull College, and my dorm was really interesting because there was like this common area, and then there were four other people in the dorm area. So on some nights we just went in the common area and we had a lot of fun watching movies and just talking. So it's really, a separate cohort in that sense, the residential college. The food, it's so good. Yale chefs really do their absolute best in all the dining halls. You go to lunch, dinner, and breakfast with your residential college at allotted times. So it's not like a billion people trying to go in the cafeteria, the dining hall at once. And then New Haven. So a lot of Yale is tied to New Haven. But YYGS does restrict students to certain areas around New Haven because it is a little dangerous at night. But it definitely does not diminish your freedom to explore freely around New Haven and try all the different cuisines and all the different opportunities as if you were a Yale student. And then find the library. So as I was talking about earlier, YYGS students have basically the same opportunities as undergraduate students. So you have access to libraries, which I thought was really cool. I spent a lot of time in Beinecke Library, which if you don't know is basically Yale's library for all these really old and vintage and rare manuscripts and books. You can see in this picture right here, this is Beinecke. You might have seen this before, but it was such a cool experience when I was doing some reading in the library there, and working on my speaker series presentation in that library. It was really fun and it was really nice because, you know, you don't have many opportunities to go to Beinecke Library on a 5-minute walk. So that was really, really awesome. But this picture is of the courtyard for my residential college, Trumbull College. And a lot of students would sometimes go here, sit on the grass, talk with their friends. And it's just a beautiful campus. And then I took a lot of pictures of food, but this is one of the better ones. Better of the better. Best of the best, basically. But it's really great food, and YYGS does an amazing job keeping their students fed and with good nutrition. Going into some logistics, here are the eligibility requirements. I won't read through all of them. You can take a screenshot if you'd like. But basically, you have to be a sophomore or a junior in high school, and you have to be 16 years old by July 20th, which is the first day of session 3. I'll give it a minute if you guys want to take a picture of this. All this information is on YYGS's website, so you could find it there as well. Here are the application details. So I'm going to get a little bit into some application advice and some essays. YYGS changes their essays every year, but I took a look at a sample application last night, and I picked the prompts out on the next slide. But the application requirements are as follows: is an activities list, a 400-word essay, and a 200-word response, 2 fast take responses, your school transcript, 1 recommender, and application fee. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So it very much so mimics what you would expect on a college application. So I'm a senior, so I've been doing a lot of these applications. But I can say that doing this YYGS application definitely prepared me a little better for what to expect as a senior. Okay, so here are the essays. On the right side, you'll find the exact essay prompts that I picked out from the website. Um, and they're different from mine, so I can't, I can't share my essays, but these are what the essay prompts are like, and you can read them as I give some key takeaways. So the first one is authenticity is really key. I was reading my essays last night that I wrote for YYGS, the YYGS application, and I just felt like a lot of this was really me, and really my true self because, you know, writing an essay becomes a lot easier when it's truthful and it's really authentic to yourself, and the person you are because the more you stretch a truth, the harder it is to write as you get more and more into the essay. And that's something that you can even take to college essays, because authenticity and being true to yourself in your writing is really important. Second is be creative. So the fast takes that you can see here, they're 280 characters, but they're entirely meant for you to be really creative and maybe think outside of the box. But if you don't, they're just meant to show YYGS like your perspectives on some ideas and whether or not you'll engage intellectually and academically or even culturally to the YYGS program. So that's what it's supposed to be. For a prompt, like if someone offered you a box with every inanimate object you've ever lost, what is the first thing you are looking for? Why? Don't go like too extra, don't go like too metaphysical and too abstract for the people who are reading your application, because they are reading a lot of them every day. So it's really important that it connects to your authenticity, right? You don't want to say like stretch your response so much that it's no longer you. But at the same time, you should be a little creative. And these fast take essay prompts are meant to give a little glimpse into your life and who you are as a person. The third is don't front load extracurriculars in your essays. So in your essay, like please reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. You don't have to put all 10 of your extracurriculars in this essay. You could just write, and if you find a good opportunity to put one of your extracurriculars or one of the things that you're really passionate about in this essay, that's fantastic. So in my essay, my prompt was for the 400-word essay, it was if you had a perfect day, what would that look like? I talked about, I talked about some of the routines I go through in that essay. And part of those routines was doing some of the work and my passion. So I'm really interested in global challenges and political science, if you couldn't tell. So I sprinkled in a little bit of information about an internship I do for basically protecting human rights in an Indonesian island. So that was really interesting. And I think that really showed through, and it was really natural too. So you don't want to force your extracurriculars in your essays either, because it felt really natural for me to talk about this internship I do, and that was really something that I think made my essay stand out a little bit too. The fourth is focus on your character, right? So in the short response, please tell us something that has influenced you and articulate how it has shaped you. This short answer is really similar to your personal statement that you'd probably be writing for the Common App essay. So it's a lot about like who you are as a person. So you use these 200 words. Don't go off talking about don't go use these 200 words talking about like, you know, this internship thing you do. Use it to talk about the person you are and the person you want YYGS to see. So this all ties back to like the creativity and authenticity part of your application. And then fifth is expose your niche. So in all of your essays, the fast takes, the short answer, and the essay itself, you should be sure to show like your interests. So ideas and interests are probably the two most important things you want to show in all of your essays. So for me, my niche is not only just like political science, international relations, and global affairs, but it's also journalism. So I'm really involved in journalism opportunities, and that's something I really tried to show in my essays through my writing, because journalism is a lot of writing, and it's a lot of, like showing your prose and your style, and your rhetoric. So that was something I tried to show there. And at the end of the day, you do have, I think, 3 spots for activities in your application that you can put. So the admissions officers are reading that in the context of your essays, which is something that you should keep in mind when you're writing them, because you don't want to be so repetitive that the admissions officer just read your first activity and then sees that activity again in your 200-word response in 200 words for your short answer. So you don't want to be repetitive to the point that the admissions officer, who's reading your YYGS application, basically is like, this is just too repetitive, basically. So just to recap, the best essay ideas are the ones that are authentic and come naturally. And feel free to show some emotion in your essays too, because those essays where they have show a little bit of vulnerability and emotion are really the ones that the people reading your application, they're really the ones that they remember. And sort of stand out in a pool. But don't stress too much about these essays because the more naturally ideas come, the easier they are to write. And if you feel like you're pushing an idea too much or too hard, it's probably not the one. You should move on to the next topic. Okay. If you have any application questions, you can put them in the Q&A chat and I'll get to it at the end. But moving on, here's a sample schedule. You can see on the left side is sort of what it looks like throughout the 2 weeks. And on the right side is sort of a cutout I took from the first 2 days of the program. But you can see that like it's really structured. At the end of the day, YYGS is not that pressure cooker kind of summer program. It's really not, it's really a place where you can develop your intellect and your interests and your ideas alongside while having fun because it is summer. And that's something that's really unique to the program. So you can see, I'm not sure how much you can see this, but their sample schedule is also on the website online, but I'll just go over a couple of things that are really notable. So you can see here, I think you guys can see my cursor, but I'm on the right panel right here. You can see that you have lectures. So lectures last an hour and a half. And they're really good opportunities for you to engage in these hard material that you then go into breakout sessions with your family to discuss, dive in a little deeper, and sort of reflect and question these topics that you learned. Then you have a lunch, which is, every day you have lunch, obviously. And then you have YYGS family time. Basically, I was talking about family time earlier. You spend an hour and a half with your family, just talking about your day, talking about the things you learned, doing icebreakers, which don't sound as bad, which aren't as bad as I'm making them seem. But you have opportunities like this to go in your family and spend time with them. And then you have your seminar. So you have 3 seminars, as I mentioned, throughout your whole YYGS program. And each seminar is broken up into 2 components. So seminar 1, seminar 2, that would basically speak to one of the seminars that you have. So as I mentioned before, one of the seminars I did was Our Borders Fake. So if I was taking Our Borders Fake, this would be the first half of Our Borders Fake. This would be the second half of the seminar. And then basically, sorry guys, and then you have dinner. And then you also work on your capstone project at the same time, which is, it goes from brainstorming to project implementation to presentation near the end. You can see on the final days all presentations for your capstone project, which is super fun because you not only get to present your own, but you can also learn from others' ideas and see what everyone else is working on. And at the end, you can see, at least for my case, see if you get your grant scholarship. Okay, perfect. So some final notes before I move on. So these are just things I really want to highlight if you learn anything from this presentation, but it's the diversity of YYGS classroom spaces. YYGS brings people from 150 different countries and I think almost all 50 states of the United States into the Yale campus. And it's really an experience that I've never had before because, you know, all these separate ideas are so diverse and they come from such different corners of the world that you can engage with them and you grow as a learner yourself because they have different perspectives and different experiences growing up that you don't have yourself. So that's something that's really unique with YYGS that I think other summer programs don't really have. The second thing is it's a very college-like feel to the program. So you live in a residential college like an undergraduate would. You go to classes and lectures like an undergraduate would. You go to the dining hall like an undergraduate would. You explore New Haven just like a student would. So it's very like as if you're a student at Yale for 2 weeks, which I think is really cool because Yale is such a prestigious university that I think it makes the program itself worth it because you have these opportunities. You can go to Beinecke Library, study, read books, do your presentations. But it's a very college-like feel to the program, and you're always seeing students walk around campus. And there are also enough students. Yale is a pretty pretty mid-sized campus, but there are enough students there in each of the 3 sessions that it feels like, you're never alone, basically. So that's a great opportunity to explore Yale. And then Yale's resources are all at your disposal, pretty much. You have access to almost every building on Yale's campus within the boundaries. You go to libraries, you can go in the lounges in all your residential colleges. You really YYGS is a program where you make the most of what you can in this program. So I took the speaker series presentation opportunity because I really wanted to develop as a public speaker, and I really had some ideas to share with my residential college. So I really took that opportunity. I used it to the fullest, which is great. So it's YYGS is really what you make of it at the end of the day. Okay. So just some other information. We have financial aid and scholarships. So YYGS, the tuition for the 2-week for 1 2-week session is $6,500. But YYGS does give a ton of financial aid and scholarships to students. I think probably some of the most financial aid any summer program in the world does give. So you can see here, just $3 million was awarded to students in the form of financial aid in 2024. So the year I was going. And it's so great because YYGS provides opportunities for students to come to the campus to Yale College, regardless of socioeconomic status and financial ability, which is really great. If you want to take a screenshot of this, you can too. But all financial aid information and how to apply for that should be on Yale's website for YYGS. Okay, and then moving on is the final slide. So, just some information about deadlines. The regular decision date is January 10th, 2025. So in this next week, for everyone listening, I'm not sure when your winter breaks are, but if you're really interested in YYGS, you should definitely ask for recommenders, for your recommendation to the YYGS program for your application in the next week. So think of the person you really want representing you. For me, it was my journalism teacher because I do so much in journalism activities that I felt like he could speak a lot to my abilities as a leader, as a thinker, as a writer, and sort of these interdisciplinary opportunities and highlights I was trying to show. So think of the recommender that you really think could represent you best. Ask them, and just keep in mind that the deadline isn't around a month, January 10th. So just keep that noted. If you have any questions, you can reach out to global.scholars@yale.edu. And then the application is at globalscholars.yale.edu. And for need-based financial aid, YYGS does an amazing job covering up to 100% of tuition costs. And it's really great because YYGS notes merit more than financial ability. Yeah. Okay, moving on is just the Q&A.